Hello Serge.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining us from
Pleasure.
the Institute of Economics and Peace. Launching in Brussels today the Global Peace Index 2019. Thank you very much for organizing it with QCEA here in Brussels. Serge, you actually have a background in military and now you work on the promotion of a different approach to peace and security. Could you tell us a little bit about how that shift occurred and what you're advocating for today?
Well, I would say that 30 years within the military gave me the background that is necessary to understand, or try to start to understand what peace is. And also, as you said, to understand that you can have different approaches to peace and that the military alone is not solving any conflict or is not solving any crisis in the world. It needs to be a comprehensive approach, and you need to do this with other partners. And some of those partners are those NGOs, think tanks and institutes that are active in peace on a daily basis. And I would say after 30 years in the military and a full and successful career, it seems to me to be a normal and logic evolution into other partners dealing with peace. So I'm doing the same job than before, but from another point of view, from another angle of approach, I would say.
Thank you. Europe still ranks as the most peaceful region of the world.
Yes.
Yet there's a bit of a shift in their policies today, where they're investing 13 billion in the European Defence Fund in research and innovation in the arms industry, another 10 billion in the European Peace Facility, supporting third-party armies with training and equip. Does that risk changing the ranking of Europe, given the shift?
Well, I would say that over the past 10 years, we have three domains in the Global Peace Index. So, ongoing conflict, internal and international, safety, security in society, and the third domain is militarization. And militarization globally has been the domain in which there has been the best evolution, the most positive evolution on the levels of peace. Seeing Europe now starting to reinvest in the military and reinvest in, I would say, all the industry and the training facilities, and I would say this nexus of military nexus, I think will have a negative impact on this third domain of militarization, that's for sure. And if you would take France, for example, that is quite low on the European ranking, so if you just take the region Europe, France is quite low. The factor that impacts the most, this low position of France, is militarization, is the size of the military export and import and investment into the military. So I think it might have a negative impact in the future. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Your report also talks of the economic impact of violence and speaks namely of how suicide has a very strong impact on the economy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well when you talk about violence, when you talk on the effects of violence, you automatically have to talk about the negative effects on mental health for those who participate in the combat, for the victims, let it be violent conflict or let it be terrorism. You will see that there is a psychological impact and mental health impact caused by violence. What we see is that the cost of suicide, so basically the amount of people who die, and suicide is a violent way to die, so people who die through suicide have a larger economic impact than people who die through conflict. So I think it's very important to take that into account in the cost of violence, and that's what we do at the Institute for Economics and Peace. But at the other end, in the more preventive approach, we need to take into account the psychological impact of violence. And not only through, I would say, existing conflicts, it's there, so we need to take care of this, but also prevention of future conflicts, but also prevention of future, I would say, impacts on mental health. We have seen in the past weeks, months and years that new phenomenon, for example, called eco-depression is emerging. So people get depressed because they do not see a positive evolution for life on Earth. So we need to take all those potential sources for conflict, or at least phenomena that can induce conflict at some point. We need to take that into account from a mental health perspective, but also conflict prevention perspective.
Thank you very much for raising the importance of addressing root causes and that they can all be very different, and the link with climate change. One very last question to finish on a positive note is to talk of positive peace, which your report speaks of and which we think is really the groundbreaking part of the report.
Yeah, I mean, when we produce the Global Peace Index, it's basically taking a snapshot of the levels of peace at the end of the year in which we collected the data. So we're talking this year about the 2019 Global Peace Index. We finished data collection on the 31st of December 2018, and for those indicators that are really, I would say, deteriorated or increasing fast, we have collected data until the end of March 2019. So it's really a snapshot of the levels of peace. And peace is then considered by the Institute for Economics and Peace as negative peace, which is the absence of violence or the absence of fear of violence. But this is not telling you how you can improve your level. So this is why at the Institute for Economics and Peace we developed the concept of positive peace that is based around 8 different pillars of peace, all interconnected. It's a systemic approach to peace, so we do not look at the causal effects, but we look at how a system is going to react to external output and basically come back to a balance within the system, or the initial shape or the initial organization of the system after being hit by an impact. And this impact can be a natural disaster, can be a crisis, or can be a conflict. What we see is that positive peace, and positive peace are the attitudes, the structures and the institutions that you need to develop to create peace, to foster it, to maintain, sustain and eventually get the economic benefits of peace. What we see is that countries with high levels of positive peace will have a fast growing GDP, will have better credit rates, lower inflation rates. Basically will have those 6 macroeconomic indicators that will be increasing because of the high levels of positive peace. So high levels of positive peace, better resilience, and high levels of peace eventually also. So if you're high on the positive peace, automatically, the snapshot that we take every year, you will also go up the ranks in the Global Peace Index.
Thank you. So to me, those are definitely the seeds to a conflict prevention approach, one that is definitely integrated, looking at very different aspects. So thank you very much for working with us on this today, and best of luck promoting your report.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure, and thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.